National Football League again. From the top of the mountain.
Good morning. Welcome into First Take, live from Arizona. And boy, do I have a crew with me. The Chiefs, champions yet again. Congratulations. We got a full house here. Of course, Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon. What a treat to have you here as well.
Good to be here.
RC and Dan is out in New York. All right. Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
How y'all doing? How's everything going?
We're good.
Clearly, it's not going well.
Why is that?
Clearly, it's not going well.
Why is that?
Because you're dressed like a basketball player going to practice, who they told after the practice, hey, man, you got these interviews, and he threw on his uncle's coat.
Well, first of all, number one, I'm exhausted. That's number one.
That's an excuse now?
So be proud that I'm here. That's number one. Number two, I'm traveling. Number three, and more importantly, I know you with two different suits on at the same time ain't talking. Well, I mean, what's up with that?
Hey, Andre Julius, we just doing it again. We got a new signature look that Molly Q is a part of. We got something we're going to release real soon.
You know what I love about it? I love the two-tone, but it's subtle.
There is nothing subtle about that jacket.
There's nothing.
Producers, get out of my ear, please. Thank you very much, because you're all in my ear.
There is nothing subtle about your hoodie being around your ears.
He did it for the Chiefs,
By the way,
right?
Stephen,
you
know
did it
what
for
Ryan
Travis Kelce and Mahomes.
What?
About his perhaps return to the desert.
Yeah.
He's scared. He's scared of coyotes.
Man, you might need to come out here, man. Get you a little javelinos. The wild pigs.
Trigger. He thought I made that up. He didn't.
Only thing I like about Arizona right now is the police shield pad of Mr. Wilbon.
Well, it's nice.
And that was nice.
You got a nice crib. Okay, a little something. Wilbon, thank you for doing this with us. I know you don't love the early mornings because you got 8 shows at night. I know, but we appreciate you. And it's so beautiful to be here in the mountains, and it's great. It's gorgeous. All right. Okay, let's do it. For the second time in his illustrious 5-year career as a starter, Patrick Mahomes is a Super Bowl champion and MVP. It was a great game that saw the Chiefs come back from down 10 at half to beat the Eagles 38-35. Here's Mahomes and his number one man, Travis Kelce.
It hasn't even sunk in yet. I mean, to be down to a team like that and to come back and win the game, I wish I'd make it easier and not be down, but I feel like I play better when we are down. So I'll try to do whatever I can to learn how to not get in those situations and just start fast and finish faster. But you'll look back on these games the rest of your life, and you'll watch these games when they're on TV and stuff like that. And I'm just glad I get to enjoy it with some of the best men on earth.
Man, one of y'all said the Chiefs were going to take it home this year. Not a single one. Feel it, and on top of that, next time the Chiefs say something, put some respect on our name.
WWE mode.
Absolutely. The Mahomes era in KC has been special. The Chiefs went 17-3 this season, including the playoffs. Their most wins in a season in franchise history. They've won 75 games in Patrick Mahomes' 5 years as a starting quarterback. That's the second most in a 5-season span in NFL history. Stephen A.
Yes.
Was this a Chiefs comeback or an Eagles collapse?
Well, I definitely think it was a Chiefs comeback. I got to give credit where credit is due. The fact of the matter is Patrick Mahomes sit up there and injured his ankle with less than 2 minutes left in the first half. They were down 24-14 at half. They scored 21 of the next 24 points after halftime, scored, and ultimately outscored them 24-11 in the second half. It was a collective effort, make no mistake about it. The Chiefs defense was able to neutralize the Philadelphia Eagles to some degree. I thought Jalen Hurts was playing phenomenal football, with the exception of the one turnover that gave Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs 7 points. We can't ignore that and the impact that had on this game. But when you look at the way Patrick Mahomes was playing, when you look at the play calling, particularly with the whip routes, not on one but 2 occasions that Andy Reid called along with Eric Bieniemy, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles in man-to-man coverage when clearly you should have been in the zone and whatever, we can point to a lot of things, but in the end, it comes down to Andy Reid being a superior coach to Nick Sirianni in the second half, and Patrick Mahomes being that superstar that he is, that everybody in the NFL is looking up to.
You can call it a comeback. It was a comeback. Now, the Eagles aided in it. And where was their defense?
Yeah.
All week long, I know I listened to people who know particularly about the defensive end of this.
That's right.
Talk about the Eagles and what it is they needed to do. Right. You cannot give Patrick Mahomes that kind of time, but yet Forget about sacks. Where were the pressures? Where were the hurries? Where were the hits maybe early in the game, even if you took a 15-yarder? You don't want to do that. But the Eagles had to set a tone there. You know, the other night we got a chance to talk to the great gold jacket wearing one, Richard Dent.
That's right.
And what was he saying? Richard was talking about that defense, his own defense, maybe the greatest of all time. And the Eagles being able to pressure like that with 4 people. They didn't pressure like that. They didn't dial up anything.
That's right.
This is where I think it's fair to go to coaching. Even though I'm being critical of the Eagles defense, it's a comeback. Patrick Mahomes was so great. When he threw that helmet off Ryan and had that agony on his face, in that moment you think, this thing could be done. I mean, if he can't sort of steady himself and he's coming back off another injury, but he did. And when he was standing on the sideline before we got to halftime, I'm like, you know what? He must be okay. As much pain as he's in, I'm not going to use the word injury, but he was so great in this game. And he scored. They scored every time they needed to score in the second half. He and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, that was amazing.
You know, you look at this team and you think about who was the #1 outside receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy who coming into this season we thought would help this team in the slot. Or go back to the first half when Juju Smith-Schuster is the only outside wide receiver with the catch, and it was 1 catch for 5 yards. And so you're targeting Travis Kelce, you're working with Noah Gray, you're using Watson early on in the second half, and Patrick Mahomes wins the MVP of this game. He only threw for a little bit over 180 yards, but it was the manner in which he made the plays. It was the timing in which he made those plays that says, okay, Patrick Mahomes, again, shows us why it's so hard to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. Because you're right, Wilbon, you're right, Stephen A. Coming into this game, the Philadelphia Eagles should have had the pass rush that could get to him. But think about Andy Reid using tight ends to chip, always making sure before the running back got out to be the check down, he was hitting the defensive ends. There was so much that they did as a team where they out-schemed the Philadelphia Eagles, and along with out-scheming them, they out-executed them.
One of the things I was thinking about, Ryan, and I want to throw this by you because you're the Super Bowl champion up here on this podium. Let me ask you this. I'm looking at the Eagles yesterday, and as Kansas City is making their run, it harkened me back to what we lost sight of about the Philadelphia Eagles throughout most of the season. They were giving up points in the second half. They would run roughshod over you in the first half, but they would taper off, and teams were able to get back. Not that they would lose games, obviously, but they would make it. Games would be far more interesting than they needed to be because the Eagles had trouble closing the door. And then I thought about that, and then I was reminded of something that I brought up last week that everybody was like, "Come on!" I said in the playoffs they went against the New York Giants. I called it Daniel Jones.
That's not up for my judgment. You know, I was hoping he would let it go, but of course, you know, he's a ref. It's a big game, and it was a hold, so they called it.
It's not my job to make the call. You know, those guys got to do that in split-second scenarios, and so you know that's what he saw, and he called it. I know it always appears to be that it's one call that makes the game. It's not what it is, right? It's not what it is. There's so many plays that contribute to the end result of the game, and today they were better than we were.
All right, so this has led to a good deal of disagreement on our show today. We've been bringing in RC, of course, is with us all morning long from Arizona, and Chris Canty gets up with us earlier this morning. We've had Bart Scott here. We've had Rob Ninkovich here. CC, we've not yet heard from you. It's an enormous call in an enormous spot in the game. What did you think of it?
I hated the call, Greeny, but it was the right call by the officials. And listen, no sports fan wants the game to be decided by a penalty by the officials. We didn't come to watch the zebras. We came to watch the players. And since the officials have been letting it go, letting guys play it all night long, you were surprised that they threw the laundry on that particular play. But this play is not all that dissimilar from what we saw in the AFC Championship game, where an unnecessary roughness call on Joseph Asai ultimately decided the outcome, and the Kansas City Chiefs kicked the field goal for the win. This is the same type of situation, and if I'm not going to criticize the refs in that scenario, I'm not going to be hypocritical and criticize them in the Super Bowl.
Okay, fair enough. So RC, again, for those who are just joining us, you played in the defensive secondary for years, and your position is it was a good call. It was a no doubt call.
Yeah, it was the right call. And listen, unlike Bobby Orr, in no way did James Bradbury revolutionize playing defense in this moment, right? You think about that play and where you are in that space. It's so difficult for James Bradbury because he's anticipating he's going to get across her. So he's trying to beat Juju across the field. And your natural instinct in that moment is not that there are less than 2 minutes left, is that I would do this or I would hold him on this play, in this position, every single time. And so now if you're the official, you're also working from that vantage point as well. You're working from the vantage point of, these are my two guys to watch, and in watching him, this is a hold. Not only did he hold him the first time on the whip, which maybe you could have let go because it was so close to the line of scrimmage, he holds him again when he adjusts the route to get upfield. And so when you think about this, I get why you would be disappointed or why Gilly the Kid and Wallow are upset because now they can't go on their show and absolutely cut the fool because the Philadelphia Eagles lost. But they lost because they didn't make enough plays. They lost because they put themselves in that position. And James Bradberry, in anticipating something, got something else. And the official made the right call. And we could talk till we're blue in the face about the calls they let go all day. That doesn't mean you get to let that one